Ready? Okay. Thanks. I'm Dave Jaffe, and beginning of the August, I went to the Vintage Computer Festival held at the Computer History Museum. I was there on Sunday. That was the second day of a 2-day event, and I took some pictures for your photographic enjoyment. Yep. So I've scanned the program, and I guess on Sunday they only had black and white programs. Kevin was there on Saturday, and he got a color program, so I missed out. So they had both scheduled talks on Saturday and Sunday, as well as a bunch of exhibitors. Yeah, lots of exhibitors. So I just went around taking pictures of stuff. This was the first thing I saw. It looks like an original Altair computer. Looks a lot like an original Altair computer, but it's just the front panel and a truncated chassis that you'll see in this picture here. It's hooked up to a TI Silent 700. Who remembers those? So these were really nice devices because it was an early terminal, and it replaced teletype, and it used heat-treated paper. So they had a print head that went across here to do all the lettering, and heat-sensitive paper. Well, it was treated to be heat-sensitive, and there was a cover for this, and you can carry it around, so it's very portable. And it's hard to see because under the paper there's an acoustic modem underneath there, so it made a very nice remote terminal. Yeah, so this guy has a bunch of these. I think they're for sale as well. You know, a lot of this stuff I just took pictures of. I didn't stand around to hear all the story about them, so I apologize if I don't know like everything in the world about them. So let's just move forward.
Go back one? What's the blue thing in the corner? Anybody know? What?
Don't know what that is. It's early micro though.
Yeah, it was one of the first ones. Kenna something. Okay, never mind.
Okay. This is a bunch of Z80 computers. This is a Panasonic, and so this guy has a collection of computers with Z80s in them. Here's a Philips, and they sort of ripped off Intel and had this logo Z80 inside. This is a Sinclair Z80. This is obviously a later model in a nice case with good keyboard. Here's another one with a standard keyboard and cassette player recorder. As you recall, back in the early days, that's how we saved programs before there was floppy disks and after paper tape. Okay. Amstrad, and the back one is this one's an Amstrad. Another Sinclair ZX Spectrum. Here's another Spectrum with more memory and a floppy disk drive. This one is a Sun Microsystems. I can tell by the logo. This is a single board computer where they implemented the CPU in relays. Those are all these orange things here. The keypad input. And there's one chip down here that has all the memory, is a memory chip that they used. And if you didn't like your relays in orange, you could build one with the relays in black. This one was controlling these set of traffic signals. And I remember we did that in fourth as well. A bunch of wearable logic circuit boards. And you remember the AMF, the American Manufacturers of Fun. They made bowling alleys and stuff like that. Here's another view of it. It's hard to tell what's really in here other than lamps and switches and a couple relays in here. But there's a bunch of wires that you can plug in and make it do things. I'm not sure exactly what it did. But here's something that looks a little bit more obvious. With switches and maybe inverters or amps and logic flip-flops up here. And, oh yeah, so it said, so this says, this is logical OR gates, and this is AND gates, and these look like flip-flops up here. Some more logic components. Logic Tran 4, again another pluggable logic board. It's another okay, this one looks like a memory bank where you can throw switches to on or off to simulate memory. Here's it says accumulator, switch registers and stuff like that. So, but this is the first time I've seen this device, so I don't know a lot about it. This is an HP microprocessor lab. Not clear what the CPU is. I imagine that it's up here, but very nice indication of the address bus, data bus, hex input, output LEDs, input switches, stuff like that. Here's a suitcase version. Again, I don't have any information on what CPU was used. I'm not sure. I just took the pictures. These guys had an Apple Newton table.
With actual Apple Newton, you could try out the handwriting recognition.
Oh. Yeah, I didn't have a Newton, but it was, for a short time, it was very popular. This is a real...
Inside.
Yeah.
80, I remember those.
Yeah, so this is a... This is a...
Newtons were popular as a platform for handheld applications.
Right.
You didn't have to build the computer.
Right. This inside came out after the Altair. What was nice about it is that it had really nice switches, rocker switches, and something. The guy was telling me that it's really hard to get the switches in this color blue. So that's what's rare about this thing, that it has actual blue plastic switches. As I recall, these were a little bit more robust than Altairs. They gave a little bit more thought to the design of the inside and the power supply and stuff like that. But
It was much prettier as a display, front panel than the Altair.
yeah, well, it had similar lights, but it was arranged more in hexadecimal rather than split octal. So, but they both had S100 slots and boards and stuff like that, so it was very, very popular. And here's some newer designs of these Z80 systems. So here's a little set of bus boards, including the Z80 as the microprocessor that runs all these things. And they have a bunch of other CPUs in the same configuration. And they have BASIC and ROM. And they also have USB connection, so you can operate it with a keyboard and display. And the Z180 was a Hitachi version of a Z80 that had larger address space that could be switched in and out. This one has flash and RAM and serial interfaces and an IDE interface, which I think are off chip, off the CPU. And has compact flash, runs CPM, and has basic in ROM. But these are contemporary boards rather than vintage boards. Not sure what this one is. Here's some early, wouldn't call it a laptop exactly. I don't, yeah, I don't see the manufacturer on it, but so I can't tell you who it is. But it has a trackball and a floppy disk drive for the front. So this says Spark over here, but I didn't get the picture right. This is a Monster 6502. So they implemented the whole CPU board in TTL logic. And
With real transistors.
Oh, with real transistors. So yeah, here's a little bit better picture of it. Yeah, I mean this is fairly large.
That's as big as you want to. That's as sophisticated a processor you want to implement with individual discrete transistors.
Yeah.
It's about the upper limit. I know the Computer History Museum did like an 1802 one.
Who did that?
There were some guys that presented a talk for the anniversary of the 1802.
Okay. This looks like some homebrew micro. Yeah. Like, yeah, another. Oh, I guess this is Cactus Computer. I'm unfamiliar with them. Then these ladies who have been at the last couple. No, don't do that. It's not that important. There's these ladies that collect all these media, and this looks like a standard floppy disk, but it's a really large one. So they've collected every media they can get their hands on, every removable media they can get their hands on. And there's all these CDs and DVDs, different format of floppies, so each one of these are a little bit different format, even though they physically look the same. They might be written in a different format and have different capacities.
It was an encrypted DVD format.
Yeah.
You could only play on a special player.
Yeah.
And you paid for it, and it would stop working after
10 times or something like that.
you played it some number of times or a week thereafter. But you could buy it and get a code, watch it forever thereafter. Or you could break the encryption and see it anytime you want.
Yeah. Oh, wait a second.
There you go. That was different but similar in concept.
There's a whole mess, as you recall, there's a whole mess of zip and jazz media. And then there was this smaller thing that had about 20 megabytes on it. Then they have all these floppy disk drives, some 8-inch drives, 3.5-inch drives, some specialized ones, and Sony made some cameras that actually used floppy disk drives as its media, and I had one at the VA, and it held about 40 pictures per floppy disk. So if you're going around taking pictures, you'd have like 10 floppies in your pocket, and when you're done with one, you swap it with a new one. So
Because the focal plane wasn't that high res.
yeah.
You could fit a lot of things on a small.
Looks like this is like a stringy floppy.
Those are days.
Yeah,
It's
those are
strong.
long gone.
Remember those removable hard disks?
Stringy floppies were actually little tapes
Yeah.
that were like in an endless loop in a little cassette. And the drive and the tape were sort of from a different world. Some actual military planes had the same drive and the same tape cassettes to load the computer data into them, back in the olden days.
Yeah. So in my experience, I had a modem that I sort of built that created tones that I can send computer data to, convert it into tones and record it on a cassette tape and play them back in order to load in the program. I mean, that was the standard way of doing it. Later on, they had specialized higher speed recording interfaces. Like, anybody remember Tarbell? Yeah, yeah. They had a higher rate for saving and reading back data. And I had that board too. I also had a cassette tape that had variable speed, so you can crank it up higher until it lost synchronization. But I think the Tarbell one was self-syncing, so you can crank it up to about twice the normal speed. Okay, this is this says DEC fax 11780. The early ones were obviously much bigger than this, so this is a test top version of it, I guess. These are some Sun Spark machines. And these mice were sort of interesting. These were optical mice, but you had to put them on a metal plate that had horizontal and vertical colored stripes, so the mouse would read how many stripes across horizontally and vertically, and that's how it got its position. Yeah. So you can really mess up somebody by going to their mouse and turning the plate 90 degrees. But they were pretty reliable, and so they didn't have a mouse wheel or anything like that, mouse ball. Again, this is early DEC VT.
So it looks like a VT 320 there, or 330.
I think it says 340. Oh, this says 240. 240. 240.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It was a VT220 was a text terminal, and that one was its descendant. It was a
Yeah.
graphics
Right.
terminal. It would take ASCII escape sequences and put line drawings up on the screen. Bitmap, raster scan.
Some more DEC equipment. This was a computer that was on the move really fast. That's why it's blurred. Oh, this is,
Concept was a little blurry.
yeah, I forgot what the story is, but this is a home-built computer and terminal.
Is there a breadboard in the front?
Yeah, with a breadboard with an LED on it. Old Commodore computer, as you recall, there was 2 versions. The earlier version had these chiclet keys, and this was a later version. This is a Commodore 64. These guys had a whole set of Apple Lisa photos. This guy tried to make a part of the Babbage engine, and I think he made this just one piece out of aluminum, which is sort of cool. And I'm not sure what this is. So this was a gathering of the most Apple ones I've seen in one place. They had 8 or 10 Apple ones, and they even had a presentation where they powered one up, and it wasn't that exciting. So what I learned.
There, you didn't miss much.
Yeah.
I'm
So
told, 'cause I wasn't there.
what I got out of it is that these Apple ones didn't produce really standardized video, so no contemporary monitor could really work with it. You had to have an earlier monitor. Yeah, lots of Apple ones. We got all those.
There was a guy actually repairing Apple One, so you could bring your Apple One in, and they would fix it for you. They had Dwight Elby's scope.
Another.
One still exists, does anyone know?
It depends how you count. If you count ones that work, that you can fire up, and if you count ones that have been modified, if you count ones that are just ornamental codec but it's in the hundreds.
There are only 200 manufactured.
Well,
Yeah.
So
A large number of them around.
that and the fact that when they came out with the Apple II, Jobs offered that they'll take and give you, you return in your Apple One, you get $666.66 off your Apple II. Since you get 100% back. So
Yep.
I'm sure a number of people did that and found it a great mistake.
Right, and I think all the ones that they got back were destroyed, as I heard.
Or
Yeah.
probably just scrapped.
Yeah. Unknown computer board. So this is the San Leandro Computer Club booth, and they have a lot of older materials.
Backing up one seat.
This one. It says VSLSI here. That's the only thing I can make out. This could be a 68,000. That's what that chip looks like. Sorry, these pictures aren't any better. Sorry.
It's evocative. Go.
Yeah. Older Atari computers, all working. This is a Kim 1 and a SIM.
That was my first one, I think.
Which one, the Kim or the SIM?
It's called, was it Syntech? Sin something.
Synertech.
Huh? Synertech?
Yeah, Synertech.
That
Synertech
was my
Special.
first one I built.
This is a SIM.
I love the Cosmic Delta.
Yeah.
CMOS.
Not sure what this is.
Yeah, the Kim 1 and Sim 1 were 6502 based, single board computers with keyboards and LED displays, that sort of stuff.
Challenger IP. This is a Rockwell AIM 1, that's right.
There was a fourth for that and a fairly thick manual.
Yeah, so this one has a really nice case on top of it. Normally it came as a board, and so they've added this keyboard in this really nice case and printer output.
Rockwell later evolved that into the first processor that had an onboard ROM with fourth in it. So it was basically a fourth chip, sort of. It was like a 6502 architecture with a mask ROM tacked onto it. But you could plug it in and it would process forth.
I forgot what computer this one is, but this cartridge is interesting because it's 64 4th by Tom Zimmer.
No ne'er-do-well.
Yeah, 19.
AGS 4th.
1983.
You got AGS 4th today, George?
I've been there.
Okay.
Now you can see it.
And they
It
were complete
exists.
with an instruction manual. I guess this is for I guess it says Commodore 64 down here. Apple II, maybe, yeah. So these are a bunch of Apple computers, Apple II GS, I guess. Atari. Then they had the Monopoly table computer again. So you could actually play interactive Monopoly with this. There's a computer off to the side that ran all the displays and everything.
Underneath
Yeah.
the table, built
Yeah.
into the table.
IMSI again. Not sure what that is. This is a code writer, so this is a daisy wheel printer. Looks like a Diablo. But what these guys have done is have an interface board that would connect to modern computers, you know, to make it a more universal printer.
It's a typewriter that you can buy, and they needed a deck writer / teletype console for their computer project, and it's now a public domain thing. You can download their boards, and they'll tell you where to get the double shot keycaps, and you can use it as a console for your, what was their computer, 1402?
I don't recall.
Some IBM, early IBM computer that we should all remember the name of great historic importance. And I'm terrible with remembering this stuff, but it's part of this portable emulation, look and feel emulation of the 1402 computer. And this is their console, because you can't easily use one of these things without the console terminal.
Okay. Guess we're back to the Altair front panel. They also have a front panel for a PDP 8/I. And you remember this IBM front panel from last year and the year before,
What's that, the
1602. Sorry?
Is that the 1130, the IBM 1130?
This, well, this says IBM 1620, but, and, yeah, it says 1620 up here as well. How many people remember the IBM PC Junior? Yeah. So that was, so that's what this was about. And I have pictures of the IBM PC Junior coming up. But what was the most interesting for me is the exhibits and talks they had on the Apollo guidance computer. So here's a LEM, and in the LEM there is this Apollo guidance computer for landing and stuff. And this is like a real one hooked up to some.
That's a Desky.
Yeah, Desky.
That,
It was the display and
Carl
yeah,
built.
right.
Everybody remember Carl? He came and talked to us about the Desky and the
Yep.
guidance, Apollo guidance computer. Okay, Carl built one as a tool to debug a real Apollo guidance computer
Which,
that they were restoring. So it actually runs now. They've repaired the rote memory and just done a remarkable job of getting this thing to actually work. And they needed a Desky to talk to it. So Carl built one.
So I'm not sure if this is an authentic one, but
Well, that's got an Arduino inside. It's not authentic
yeah.
at
So
all.
it
It looks really cool though.
yeah, it does. Looks very authentic. And so they had they had this on display of the and the IMSI and yeah. So early IMSI, PCAT.
Oh my God, is that a 8286 there?
Yeah, that's the ATs were 8286.
Oh man, those were.
And this was an original original.
Talk about something that came and went.
Yeah,
I had one.
I had one too. Original PC. The original ones just had one or two floppy drives. Yeah. Yes.
Okay, now there's two of them. I don't know if that's a Model A or a Model B.
Right.
The difference there is Model A had 16K and Model B had 64K. I have a Model B like that.
Yeah.
On that keyboard, you know
Yep.
what the housing is made of? Steel.
Steel. Yeah.
I mean, oh, you got it. Yeah,
Yeah.
you could kill somebody with that thing.
The original one as it came out. The
Later, you could get
No, you
hard
can't.
drives.
Right,
They were
right.
called hard cards.
Yeah. No, that was different. That was a hard drive on a board that you plugged in.
Yeah,
Okay.
It was on the
So
ISO card, but you could actually buy a hard drive and an
Right.
interface card.
Right. So the original
One of
the
those.
original one had like 5 slots, and the B I think had 8 slots in the back. And the original one only had a cassette interface, and then they had a floppy interface, and then you can actually put 2 floppies in it and a hard drive as well. So a little bit another IBM laptop kind of product, I guess. Two floppy drives, and here's the PC Junior. But it came with a different keyboard than this. So here's the original PC.
About 3 of them for $10,500. That was a discount rate.
Yeah, I think I sold one for $100.
Yeah, and there were dual floppies.
Yeah, another one. Back to Ataris. And then this guy had a bunch of Sinclair Z80 computers. And here's the original one that had these membrane keyboards on it and ran CPM, and then there was a fourth for it as well. But sort of tough to type into. And Space Invaders. And Ed Fagelin. And one presentation that was really well done was one where this guy made an FPGA of the Apollo guidance computer and hooked it up to a program that simulated landing on the moon, that used that the simulation, the FPGA board that simulated the Apollo guidance computer. And the simulation, the software simulation was really good. It showed the inside of the LEM and the buttons on the diski where you would actually press them, and it would in real time operate the simulation. So on screen you saw the LEM instrumentation panel, the diski and all the other switches and stuff, and it showed windows off to the side which had the landscape of the moon passing by, and it was all accurate. So he did a presentation where he actually did the landing, and he actually had the what was the error code? 1202 alarm.
Yeah,
He
he
hit,
had alarms and
yeah,
it
and
was
stuff.
great.
It was really well done.
You can see him do this on YouTube. He's done it
Yeah.
many times. I think you did it 3 or 4 times at the
Yeah.
Computer Festival,
But-
whenever they had a hole in their programming, and you would get up on stage and land the LEM.
But it was very impressive to see that, being done in real time, landing on the moon in real
So,
time.
you remember when Carl came to talk about the Apollo guidance computer, there was another guy. And that's the guy that did the gate for gate accurate from the original drawing simulation of the Apollo guidance computer. And it was there at the Vintage Computer Festival, actually landing the simulated LEM.
About this big. Yeah, that was really well done. I would say the layout of the festival was very good, with lots of space for exhibitors, and they had a nice area for presentation and the audience. So I think it was very well coordinated this year. What was lacking is they had a consignment area for selling things, and there wasn't anything really interesting for sale this year.
Because there's eBay now.
Okay.
All right, let's see if we can get some internet going here.
Hand this over to you.
Thank you, sir. So we're trying to get a little internet, and I had a couple of points I wanted to make. Thank you, Dave. If you could just be patient for... That's what I was trying to think of. This is I think, a clone similar to the other clone that Dave showed a picture of. So, there you go. Now, Tenback, one of the very, very first original personal computers from the Altair era. It's considered by the Computer History Museum to be the world's first personal computer. And you can read about it. There's a good article on Wikipedia. Shortly after the Battle of Hastings. All right, I just have one more thing I wanted to say. All right, so that's a IBM 1620. And you might recall Dave showed a picture of a front panel that looked like that. It's the IBM 1620 Junior. And they're making one of these things. It's been a project for a while now. They made an appearance at the last Vintage Computer Festival. And the Flexowriter wannabe that these guys introduced this year, the daisy wheel typewriter that they've converted, is the console for this, because you can't buy these anymore. So the object is to have a computer from that era that you can pick up and carry around to schools or events and introduce people to antique coal-fired computers back in the olden days. And we won't trouble you to learn anything more about this computer. Suffice to say, it was important in the history of computers. We're going to take a short bathroom break, and then I think Don is going to come up and blather substantially. And oh, we talking a half an hour or an hour? What do you like? What?
Go to an hour.
Get started and see how far you go. If you want to bail, you know, anytime you want, pull a ripcord and call it a win. Thank you.